Hello, Thornton Darts here and welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be looking at the PDC Order of Merit, but with a twist, not in terms of the players. We're going to be looking at the darts manufacturers. So we're not talking about the individual players. We're going to go to, for example, Red Dragon, Winmore, Unicorn, Trinidad, Loxley, Target. We're going to be ranking those in the Order of Merit based on the prize money that their players have earned in the Order of Merit. So, yeah, let's have a look at the table. Okay, so let's talk about the Order of Merit in terms of the manufacturers. So the first thing I noticed straight away looking at this, top two, Red Dragon. And if you look at the distance between the number 2 and 3, now Van Gogh lost a lot of ranking money due to him having to pull out. I believe it was something like 180 grand he lost to defending or something. So there's a bigger gap there now. So Winmore really will be affected by Michael Van Gerwen's sort of lack of defence. Obviously not from his fault through COVID. So it's going to be interesting there. It potentially losing more with Van der Voort as well. So COVID will have affected these rankings slightly. So very interesting to see how this plans out. Now, yeah, for me, yeah, Red Dragon being the top two with that big gap, that's going to make a big difference on the Order of Merit of manufacturers. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plans out. Then Winmore coming in here at number 3 with Van Gerwen. Now, the interesting thing for me, which I think is going to be maybe what some people maybe wouldn't have expected, James Wade, Michael Smith, Gary Anderson, Dimitri. Although Red Dragon have the top 2, Unicorn have more players in the top 10. Does that ranking money add up to an equivalent of maybe the players toward the top? We're going to find that out. And as you come down again, top 10, Johnny Clayton, arguably one of the best players this year, maybe the best player this year in terms of just winning. Then we see Target coming in there at number 10. Very interesting. Rob Cross having a good year. And we see another Winmore player here, Joe Cullen, again, has been very in form recently. So it'll be interesting to see where Winmore stack up against, you know, Red Dragon with the top 2. And as we start to come down, we start to see a few names maybe we didn't expect initially, or maybe maybe not small brands, but maybe not the brands we hear about as much. So Bulls Germany in there with Christoph Ratajski. Harrow's in there with Chizzy. Then we've got some more Target. Bulls NL with their first player in there with Dirk van Dijvenbode. Again, it's debatable what Dirk uses. I'm not sure if Dirk actually uses his older darts. I think he used to use Barney darts way back. I'm not 100% sure if he's transitioned yet or he's using the full darts. I think he might, but you never know. Ryan Searle as well with Loxley. Again, Loxley, I mean, I'm pretty biased. Obviously, I work with Loxley, but a great brand up and coming. It's great to see them in the top 16 with Ryan Searle, another player in form. And then as we start to come down, you'll see a lot of Winmore here. So Merv King, Danny Noppert, Brendan Dolan, Daryl Gurney, Simon Whitlock. It's going to be interesting to see how many players, how the prize money adds up. Whether just having 2 or 3 players at the top is as good as having, you know, 10, 12 players a little bit lower down. So it's going to be interesting to see how that plans out. Bulls Germany coming in again with Mensa. Again, Mensa, Bulls Germany could be a lot higher, but Mensa's really not the old Mensa. He's dropped quite a lot in the rankings, so it's interesting to see how much they've lost out on because of Mensa not quite being in form. I mean, Christopher Mensa, if Mensa was back on form, you know, Mensa could be back in the top 10. So I think they'll have dropped quite a bit if we'd have looked at a previous manufacturer's Order of Merit. Then we come down, we've got some more Unicorn players like Callum Ridds, Chris Dobie. An interesting one to mention here is Bit of Bully. Now, the reason I've got Bit of Bully in here, Ryan Joyce was sponsored by a company called Bit of Bully. They're actually a dart shop. And they were the ones that sourced his equipment, and they do some other darts as well. So I would class them as a manufacturer. And this is their only appearance with Ryan Joyce. So it'll be interesting to see how they stack up in terms of, I've actually got a stat of player versus prize money ratio. So you might have a company that's got the best player to money ratio. So the 1 player or 2 players that they've got average out as the best earnings versus maybe a company that has 10 players that are lower down. So an interesting stat there that we'll get to look at. And as we start to come down, you then start to see companies like Cosmo, maybe known as more of a Japanese brand, but they've got players like Darius Labanauskas, they've got Steve West, Andy Bolton, they've also got Jack Main, who's outside the top 64. And then we're coming down, Dynasty make an appearance of Boris Kurtzmas, their only player in the top 64, I believe. And Bulls NL coming in at a couple of the bottom players. So, yeah, very interesting. I say bottom players, this is the top 64 in the world. So, yeah, and again, a couple of Winmores trickling in towards the bottom. The only sort of weird one is William Borland. I believe he's sponsored by Winmore, but he throws unicorn darts. Now, does that prize money go unicorn? Because they're the ones that have manufactured the darts he uses. But obviously they're not his. He's not on Team Unicorn, so that's the reason why he's there. But a little bit of an anomaly there potentially. So now, before we go into the sort of the order of merit of manufacturers, what did you think the top sort of 3 would look like? I mean, when you think of how big a brand is, you immediately go, you know, Red Dragon, Winmore. You go Target, Unicorn. Do you think that that's still going to be the case in terms of pure prize money? Who do you think's got the best player to winning ratio? So let's say Red Dragon have 10 players in the order of merit. Is their overall earnings versus player going to be better than maybe someone else that's got less players but maybe got higher ranked players within that player base? So have a think, and then we'll get on to the manufacturer's order of merit. Okay, so let's take a look at the order of merit and manufacturers. Any surprises in there? Well, let's take a look. At number 1, Red Dragon. I thought that was pretty clear, and they are just doing so well with the players that they have. I mean, the Johnny Clayton, Price, and Peter Wright. A lot of this will be top heavy price. I mean, you think we saw 1 million and 1 million from Peter Wright and Going Price, so 2 million of that. 2.5 million nearly of that prize money is purely 2 players, so that's really interesting. Then we've got Unicorn that have got a bit more of a strength of depth in players, so 4 of their players are in the top 10, so that's pretty impressive. So they've got a bit more of a spread in the top area as opposed to Red Dragon, who've got a bit more of a top heavy setup. Then we've got Winmore at number 3. I think Winmore may have been higher if Van Gerwen and Vincent van der Voort maybe had played their games. If they'd have won, they could have potentially jumped Unicorn here. So very interesting to see how COVID may have affected these rankings slightly. Then we've got Target. Now it's quite interesting now. Target we know is a pretty big brand, but they're nearly £1 million in prize money behind Winmore. Now obviously Winmore have more players, but if you look at Target's sort of money to player ratio, it's not that high. So maybe the Target players this year not performing as well. So it's an interesting stat there, considering how big we see Target as a brand. Then a shock for me here was Bulls Germany. Now the reason I say shocked is you kind of forget how many players they actually have. So you look at, I mean, Mensa and Christopher Ratajski, 2 big players there. I mean, imagine when Mensa Suljovic was more informed, that would have been a lot higher here. I don't think they'd have maybe jumped Target, but yeah, they would have been a lot higher on this total prize money, and their player to money ratio would have been a bit higher. But again, if we look at that stat, it's not great here, mainly because they are 5th in the manufacturer's order of merit, but I think it's a little bit top heavy with their better players. But yeah, again, interesting if you compare them to Red Dragon, who have 8 players as well. So again, there's nearly £300,000 per player difference there. So an interesting. A bigger shock for me now is Trinidad. They only have 2 players, but look at the players that they do have. Now I think this will change. Devon Peterson probably coming out of form now. And Jose's starting to drop a little bit. He's going to be defending a lot coming up. So I can see Trinidad dropping. But what an impressive stride for only 2 players in their 6th in the manufacturer's order of merit. That's brilliant. I mean, you look at their player to money ratio. Absolutely fantastic. 7, then we've got Harrows. Again, quite similar. They've only got 3 players in there. So they're doing pretty well to be 7th. So again, you look at these manufacturers with few players. If they're up there, it means that the players that they have got in that top 64 are doing well. So that's good. Bulls NL, got quite a few players there. I think Dirk will be a good chunk of that. Max Hop sitting at the very bottom player. Max Hop is Bulls NL. So I think, again, maybe a bit more spread out. They've got sort of a player in the top, middle, bottom. So pretty good turnout there from Bulls NL. Then Loxley, that again, as I said, I'm pretty biased for Loxley, but great company. They only have 1 player in Ryan Searle, but what a player they have been for Loxley. I mean, if we'd have gone back, we'd have had Matt Edgar in there as well. But obviously he's come out fighting in Q School now to get his tour card back. But a great little number 9 there for Loxley, a company coming up now, and they've managed to get a player in the top 16 and in the top 10 of the darts manufacturers in terms of order of merit. Then we've got Cosmo. Again, not necessarily a mass amount of players, but a good amount of prize money in there. So we're coming down now into Bitter Bully. 1 player, Ryan Joyce, and he's pretty high ranked. So that puts Bitter Bully over some brands like 180 who've got 2 players in there. So their 1 player that they do have is performing well in terms of manufacturers. Then we have 180, only have 2 players in there, not the highest ranked, but you know, they're up there. They've got players in the top 64, 2 of them to be exact. Then we've got Mission in there, again, only 1 player, well, 2 players in theory. They've got Ryan Joyce now. So if Ryan Joyce carries on, Mission will climb up that ranking pretty fast. Again, if Ryan Joyce performs the same while he's a Bitter Bully, that will put them up to nearly 200k. So that will jump them up a little bit more. It'll be ahead of Bitter Bully, definitely, and come up towards the Cosmo Loxley area. So very interesting to see how this will change in the future. And then we've got Dynasty. They've got 1 player, Boris Kirchmar, but he's in the top 64. So incredible. Now, we kind of expected a few, maybe didn't expect to see a few other names in there. I mean, Trinidad for me is not the shock, but maybe something we don't associate with a big brand. Now, let's look at the player to money ratio. For the players that Red Dragon have, they are pretty convincingly earning the most prize money per player on average. And then we go down to some of the lower, I mean, Loxley, in terms of player to money ratio, and they've only got 1 player, but they would be a lot higher in this table if we go by the players that they've got. Again, same with Trinidad. Trinidad would actually overtake Unicorn and Winmore in terms of player versus prize money. The 2 players that they've picked are doing really well. So you could say that they potentially have made better choices in the order of merit at the moment. Because maybe we'll see some of the other players start to come up in the top 64, and this is going to change a lot. And again, we look down. So, I mean, Bulls Germany are high up there, but per player, not the best in terms of prize money per individual player. You could say that if they didn't have that many players there, then they would be a lot further down this list, because per player, they've maybe not got the highest performing players in the order of merit, but they're making up for the amount of good players within that top 64. But yeah, there's the data, guys. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Sorry if I've waffled too much, but it's quite an interesting thing to have a look at. And yeah, I mean, well done Red Dragon for topping the PDC order of merit this year. Not only have they got the world #1, they're the world #1 manufacturer in terms of the order of merit. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you soon. Ciao.